Imagine standing on solid ground and sinking beneath your feet. Since the 1930s, Louisiana has lost nearly 2,000 square miles, 10 times the size of New Orleans. And it's accelerating. Over the next 50 years, the coast could vanish twice as fast. Watch the bottom right corner. We'll track how much land disappears in real time. If you live near any coastline, this creeping collapse could be coming for you. But why is this happening? The answer isn't just nature. It's hidden in the river itself, and in the choices humans made long ago. The Mississippi River didn't just carve a path through Louisiana. It built it. Over millennia, the river carried soil from 31 states and 2 Canadian provinces, depositing sediment and constantly crafting new land where there was once only water. The river birthed forests, swamps, and islands, shaping a landscape alive with motion. And it didn't stay in one place. The Mississippi repeatedly abandoned its old channels, forging new coastlines and reshaping the region. Can you name one of the ancient delta lobes the river abandoned? Drop your guess. Most creative answer gets pinned. Each shift followed nature's rules: sediment buildup, channel slope, and the river's drive to find the shortest path to the Gulf. Picture this. 4,000 years ago, the river abandoned the Techa Delta and carved the St. Bernard lobe, reshaping 1,000 square miles in a single human lifetime. As the river piled new land higher, older layers compressed under the weight above them. The weight of new sediment gradually compacted the layers below, a process that had begun long before humans arrived. The river breathed life into Louisiana, but this creation came with a hidden vulnerability. The land's inherent fragility set the stage for the invisible collapse that follows. The river built Louisiana over 7,000 years, but part of the answer to what happens next lies just beneath our feet, and the rest lies in what humans build above it. Beneath the Mississippi's surface, the river's own creation carried a hidden cost. The delta sank naturally at 1 to 5 millimeters per year, slow enough that the river's sediment delivery kept pace for 7,000 years. As the river piled thousands of feet of sediment, the Earth's crust beneath slowly bent downward, like pressing your thumb into clay. For millennia, this was a working cycle. Land sank, the river rebuilt it. The delta expanded and contracted, but never disappeared. Gravity acted silently, compressing soft soils and shaping the coastline, but it wasn't catastrophic. The system worked. Every abandoned delta lobe subsided slowly over centuries, while new channels formed elsewhere. The river remained the active architect, building forests, swamps, and islands, even as older land yielded beneath its own weight. It's a startling thought. If your home were sinking 5 millimeters per year, so slowly you'd never notice, would you stay or leave once you learn the truth? Comment, stay or leave. This balanced subsidence is what made Louisiana habitable for thousands of years. But when humans built levees to fix the river in place, they broke that delicate equilibrium. Gravity still acted, but the river couldn't rebuild. What followed wasn't just faster sinking. It was geological catastrophe. The answer to how nature's slow compression turned into rapid collapse sets the stage for the engineering decisions that would define the delta's fate. After the Great Mississippi Flood of 1927, Congress passed the Flood Control Act of 1928, which empowered the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers with unprecedented authority to tame the river. Over the next century, engineers constructed more than 3,500 miles of levees, floodwalls, spillways, and revetments, tightly channeling the river into man-made corridors, sometimes narrower than a city block. Its natural floodplain, once spreading across 10 to 15,000 square miles, collapsed into a rigid corridor of dirt and concrete. Entire communities were reshaped by this confinement. In places like Plaquemines Parish, neighborhoods that once sat safely above sea level now lie feet below it, not because the land failed, but because it was cut off from the river that once rebuilt it every spring. And that confinement marked the end of a self-sustaining cycle, a cycle where the river built land as fast as gravity pulled it down. Here's the paradox. Sediment piles up within the constrained channels, but is blocked by levees from reaching the surrounding marshes, starving them of the vital soil they need to combat sinking land and rising seas. Before levees, the Mississippi carried over 400 million tons of sediment into Louisiana's wetlands every year. Today, over 80% of that sediment flows straight into the Gulf, lost forever. And without replenishment, wetlands don't just weaken. They sink, they erode, they vanish. Imagine standing on land, slowly slipping away beneath your feet. Would you notice before it was too late? Comment yes, if you would, or no if it would catch you by surprise. This engineered imbalance triggered not just collapse, but unleashed a far more dangerous force, pulled from deep beneath the ground, accelerating the sinking faster than the river ever could alone. They didn't realize it at first. Every barrel of oil and every cubic foot of gas pulled from beneath Louisiana wasn't just fuel. It was pressure removed from the Earth's spine. And when that pressure disappears, the land doesn't settle. It buckles like a mattress missing its springs. For decades, the Gulf Coast became a porcupine of extraction wells, thousands of needles tapping ancient layers that once held the delta firm. As the pressure drained away, entire wetlands began sinking at astonishing speeds. In some areas, more than an inch per year, millimeter by millimeter, year after year. This is happening now. What would you do if your home started sinking this fast? Comment, stay, or leave. To reach those wells, companies dredged 10,000 miles of industrial canals, surgical cuts that let saltwater surge deep into freshwater marshes. It poisoned the plants, killed the roots, and shredded the living fabric holding the coast together. The delta didn't erode, it unraveled. And here's the part no one escapes. Name one thing you use daily that required destroying an ecosystem. And the final insult? Once the root structure, the coast's living skeleton, died, the wetlands lost their natural armor. Storm buffers disappeared. Nursery grounds collapsed. This unprecedented geological collapse now threatens dozens of bird species and the critical nursery habitats for countless fish and shellfish. Louisiana wasn't just losing land. It was watching the ground vanish beneath it, forcing every creature that depended on this place to make a terrible choice: adapt, flee, or disappear. When land collapses, life doesn't wait for explanations. It moves. Across the Louisiana coast, the first refugees weren't people. They were pelicans, herons, redfish, shrimp, oysters, fleeing a home that was dissolving beneath them. The marsh that once cradled them, a biological fortress stretching across thousands of square miles, has become a broken maze of open water. Every creature is being forced into smaller, more unstable fragments of habitat. That habitat was humanity's first line of defense. Here's the brutal physics of the coast. Every mile of healthy marsh knocks 6 to 9 inches off a storm surge. 6 to 9 inches is the difference between a flooded street and a drowned neighborhood, between a damaged home and a destroyed one. Those wetlands weren't just nurseries for life. They were a shock absorber protecting tens of thousands of families and anchoring a $2.4 billion seafood industry built on oysters, shrimp, crabs, and fish that depend on those marshes to survive. But when the root systems died, the shield failed. And when the shield failed, everything behind it became exposed: homes, towns, culture, livelihoods. And that failure forces a terrifying moral choice. If you could only save one, would you protect 1,000 homes today, or the 10,000 acres of wetlands that protect 100,000 homes tomorrow? It's a zero-sum decision no one wants to face, but the coast already is. Pelicans once nested by the tens of thousands on barrier islands. Many of those islands are gone, reduced to underwater ridges. Shrimp, redfish, and oysters push inland, chasing the collapsing boundary between saltwater and fresh, a boundary that used to drift gently with the seasons, but now lunges inland with every storm. And it leads to a question for every viewer. If an entire coastline's wildlife is being forced to flee, what happens when there's nowhere left to run? Comment, run, if you think nature adapts. Break, if you think something finally snaps. Because the next species forced to move won't be the pelicans. It'll be us. You can measure Louisiana's collapse in acres, in maps, in satellite images. But the real measurement isn't area. It's distance. In the early 1900s, New Orleans sat behind roughly 75 to 100 miles of protective wetlands stretching to the Gulf. Today, in several stretches of the lower coast, that buffer has shrunk to less than 3 miles. A thin, dissolving line where a vast natural shield once absorbed the force of incoming storms. And in some regions, the coastline hasn't simply receded. It has moved 20 to 30 miles inland within a few decades, swallowing entire fishing towns, roads, and marshes that once sat far from open water. This collapse isn't slowing. It's accelerating. Louisiana is losing land at a rate of 1 football field every hour, ranking among the fastest ecological declines worldwide. Barrier islands crumble, wetlands fracture, and the Gulf keeps advancing. All of it leads to one fragile, failing boundary: the Mississippi River. As the Gulf pushes farther inland, saltwater slides beneath the freshwater, forming a saltwater wedge. Saltwater intrusion events, previously occurring once per decade, have been recorded nearly every year over the past 3 years. If the saltwater wedge reaches New Orleans intake valves, it will poison drinking water for over 1 million people. Imagine waking up one day and your tap water is salty and undrinkable. Would you stay and fight or leave? Comment stay or leave. And the danger doesn't stop at water. The coastal corridor holds over $100 billion in ports, pipelines, energy infrastructure, and shipping lanes, all vulnerable as land disappears and the front line collapses. Families living along Louisiana's sinking coast are already making impossible choices that will shape their futures and communities for generations. This is the line that cannot hold, because you can rebuild a levee, you can rebuild a port, you can rebuild a road, but you cannot rebuild land. Down here, land isn't just soil, it's identity. And as it disappears, entire cultures face the unthinkable. The Biloxi-Chitimacha-Choctaw of all the Jean Charles, the Pointe-au-Chien Nation in Terrebonne and Lafourche, Cajun and Creole families from Delacroix to Grand Isle, all rooted in places the water is actively erasing. And that's where the real dilemma lives. The sunk cost fallacy isn't theory here. It's the heartbreaking choice to hold onto a homeland, slipping beneath your feet, because leaving feels like erasing your own past. But Louisiana isn't alone. Jakarta sinking, Miami flooding, Venice drowning, Shanghai subsiding. Different cities, same blueprint. Comment your city. Where does your story unfold? Because the question isn't just whether Louisiana can keep its land. It's whether any of us can. Share your city. And join us on Psyche and Earth as we explore what's next for our changing world.